us one day in this training and there was an external trainer. He asked the group in the room, are you guys allowed to use ChatGPT in your organization? And I was like, with my whole chest, I was like, no. And everyone around me was like, yes.
You're like, oh no.
Your perspective and your mindset was embraced because you brought an entirely different dynamic.
I was very upfront about that. I expressed my desire to learn more. I was like, I know I don't have this long list of credentials that external candidates or the job posting has, but I do know the company. That means I know the user. At the end of the day, the users, we work for them, but they're one of our biggest points of failure. So it's trying to get them in line, keep them happy and productive, but still make sure that we're securing the company.
You founded the Flash Tech Summit, which helps to teach kids about IT. What's that about and what inspired you to create that?
I wanted to find a way to show other kids what tech was. Once I began my career in it, I realized how little was shared about careers in technology when I was in school. I can't do certain types of work, and I didn't know there were options. So I was like, I want to share what I know now with our kids. I want them to know that there's other careers out here that they can do. And I also wanted to get rid of the stigma that everything in IT, like you said, do you code? No, I don't. Everyone in IT does not have to know how to code. That's the good thing about IT. I tell people, like, you don't have to stay where you start. You're not married to whatever you got your degree in, your major in, or the first position you had. You don't have to stay there. You can always pivot.
That's fundamentally just the basic of it. You're getting a little bit of experience that exposes you to something else that you might really enjoy, and then you pivot. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I am so excited to welcome Adrian McClanahan. Now, Adrien is an Information Systems Security Analyst. She has worked for over 17 years at the National Academies of Science, Engineering and Medicine organization. Now, Adrien is also known as Chic Diva Geek on Instagram, where she often shares super cool tips on security awareness and cybersecurity settings. Adrien is also the founder of the Flash Tech Summit, which is a free event designed to introduce kids to IT. We're diving deep into her daily work, purpose, motivation, skills that drive her cybersecurity career. This is Cybersecurity Uncomplicated with Cyber Queen, where we break barriers one chat at a time. No one has the exact roadmap, but together we're challenging stereotypes. We'll show you that cybersecurity is for everyone. We're bold, smart, and unapologetically diverse. So Adrien, I am so excited to be chatting to you today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. Again, like I said, when I got the invite, I was like, wow, me. So very happy to be here and talk with you, meet you, and just kind of chat it up about, our shared love of tech, working day-to-day stuff. So thank you for having me.
I really thought what a great conversation this would be. You are so great at sharing information online. You're so great at kind of expressing basic day-to-day tips to the normal human being. So I'd really love to know more about you. So who is Adrien from a personal, professional perspective?
Who am I? We as women wear lots of different hats. So of course I start there. I am Adrien. I'm myself. I'm a daughter. I'm a mother to a college student. So we're 2 years into this college journey. Interesting times. I'm a wife. I am an IT professional, sister. So I let's start there. Like, mom is probably the biggest hat I wear. Outside of IT, it's apps. It's before that. And my son, like I said, he's in college. So for me, that's my biggest and proudest hat. I like reading. I used to be a gamer, and I say that because I don't think I put it down on purpose. I just didn't have time anymore. And so I think my son picked up that habit pretty well. So we're all right. I like to game. I like to read. I like to eat food, which then, translates to me having to work out because you can't have one without the other. Of
course.
I really like food, and I really like food. Like, I'm very much, let them eat cake. No, you don't eat cake all the time, but so I, outside of IT, I do love like all things tech. Like, I'm very excited about new things that are happening. Of course, so that's AI. Very leery and excited about it at the same time because what it's doing to the space. From a cyber perspective, of course, I'm very, but to see how it can help and empower people who would otherwise not really be able to get a handle on certain things, I'm here for it. I'm here for how it is doing what technology is supposed to do, improving things, making things easier for people. I know there's a downside to it too, but Yeah, I'm pretty laid back. Sometimes, I'm very much, a homebody when I want to be. I'm one of those people that the memes that's on the internet. It's like, hey, I've been outside for 3 nights in a row. I need 7 to 10 business days to recharge. I'm one of those people. Are you coming? No, I can't. I don't have my batteries depleted. I need time to recharge. But I do love being around my friends, people, loved ones I care about. So game night me any day. I'm like, hey, we can be in the house. We can have a good time. So I'm pretty laid back. Good balance. I was like, I love to give back. And I think that's kind of one of the root pillars of the Flash Tech Summit. I know we haven't gotten there yet, but that's definitely something I wanted to be able to kind of incorporate into taking tech and being able to serve and give back, put those two things together. So
Amazing. And I feel you on the homebody vibes. I think that's one of the reasons I love now living in Copenhagen in Denmark, because for so many months of the year it's cold and dark, so you're not forced to really go out. So
outside.
in the summer I spend all of my battery time, and then in the winter I'm just hibernating. So it works fine.
You're like, I'll be back outside when the weather warms up again.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a moment to speak about data brokers. You know those random texts or emails that we all receive, sometimes multiple times a day, that you've won a 60% discount on a cruise that you've never even signed up for, or you have to upgrade your phone contract with a particular provider that you've never used. Guess what? They probably got your data from a data broker. Now, in case you haven't heard, data brokers are companies whose entire job it is to scrape your personal information. Everything from your full name and address to your phone number, or even your online browsing habits, and they then package it and sell it to whoever is buying. That's how all of these scammers and telemarketers get their hands on your data in the first place. I used to just block these numbers, but that doesn't really solve the problem because they still have the data. That's why I'm so excited to again partner with Delete Me. I have spoken about them before. I use their service for myself and my family. They do all the work for you, going through those data broker sites, finding your personal info and getting it removed. So if you are tired of the random spam calls or emails, or you just want to protect your personal data, check them out. Head over to joindeleteme.com/cyberqueen and make sure to use my code cyberqueen for 20% off. Trust me and you'll thank me later. So in your daily job right now, you are an Information Systems Security Analyst. Now, in my terms, that translates to an Infosys security analyst, right? But can you explain what that role is and what you do on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, I guess I'm not a threat hunter per se, but it's like this role is kind of mixed with a little bit of, threat detection, but SOC analyst a little bit. So we are very much doing, combing through logs, looking for anything that, alerts that look funny. We do spend some of the time analyzing new software technologies that our growing company, because again, IT, we work for the people in the company. So things they want to use, we're making sure, hey, can we take a second look at this? It sounds great on paper. Hey, it's going to give us this capability to do this. Okay, but what is it doing with the information you're giving it? Or what information are you giving it, if any? So, and, evaluating tools for our users, flagging stuff that's not secure is a good chunk of my day because our users are very, especially with, part of the company being remote, it's, hey, what are you doing? What's that? Let's not use that, and providing them alternatives because, of course, just saying no is not, you don't want to do that. It's like, okay, I know you're trying to do your job. How can I help you both do your job and protect our data? Because we want to do both. That's a good chunk of my day though. So day to day, evaluating reports, new software, checking for threats that may have come in and helping users navigate things that they've seen that they're reporting that are suspicious. They're like, hey, is this safe? Is this email legit? And sometimes they're legit emails, but it's getting harder to tell. I get it. They're like, well, I talked to this person about this 3 days ago, and now this email showed up. So sometimes we have some users that are very aware, some that are very unaware, and then we have some in the middle where they're like, I'm just going to send it to you anyway. I think it's good, but double check. And we're fine with that. They're like, so it's lots of email, lots of reports, but day-to-day kind of can look different depending on the day of the week. This time of year, it ticks up a little bit. Holidays, fourth quarter, everybody's closing out things for the year. So it's like you're getting reports, they're getting all types of files. So it's like we're very looking at everything like, are you sure that's who you were emailing? Is this, so that's a lot of that on the day-to-day basis. It's not super, it's technical, but I used to work in the data center. So that work was a little more physical, a little more on site. This work, a little more, logical, investigative, and I like it. So I was like, I'm happy I made the transition from the data center to cyber. So that's what my day-to-day kind of looks like.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a good point there because that was my next question. So you didn't start your career in cybersecurity at all, right?
No.
You transitioned into the space. So what was that like? I mean, how did that come about?
So I started at the help desk level, like most people, like that's usually most people's foot in the door. So working with end users directly, helping them with basic stuff like, did you turn it off, turn it back on again? Hey, this doesn't work because the file's corrupted, installing new software. And I transitioned from there to the data center because I wasn't feeling challenged enough anymore. I was like, I'm not, how you can get into that rut where you're just doing things on autopilot. I was like, I don't want to do that. I was like, I want to learn more. So I applied for a, not junior, I guess just regular level role in the data center, intro to them, but I just wasn't senior. So I spent a lot of time learning, Red Hat, Unix, Linux, server management. The networking thing kind of gave me a run for my money when I first got there because running cabling, I was like, this is a lot. There's servers, the routers, and the switches. I was like, this is why those guys are always in here, like all the time. So learning that merge, I think being in the data center, coming from the help desk, it gave me a different set of eyes. And once I saw what we were kind of doing and supporting, I think supporting security from that side made me want to transition fully into cyber. I was like, because we would bring in new tools and support them from the physical aspect, connectivity. And I'm just like, well, what does it do? He's like, it stops this, or it's monitoring this traffic. I'm like, so that's why users can't visit this website, or, he's like, we inspect the traffic. So I was like, I want to know more. But of course, in security, you can't know anymore. You don't work over here. So that piqued my interest in kind of seeing the different ways we were able to protect the company from the operations side, because that's what we call operations versus end user support. And I was like, but I noticed from the operations end, because they don't directly work with users, they're not necessarily concerned about how it impacts the users. So I was like, okay. I have this lens, because they're like, we're going to upgrade this today. I was like, during the day, we have a lot of people online during the day. Is this going to, cause issues? No. And even if it does, they'll never hear about it. They don't work at the help desk. They're not for it. People don't even know they work here. So it's like, you guys are doing things and the help desk is getting bombarded with, calls like, hey, this isn't working, or even just explaining to them why they can't do something anymore. It's like, I was able to do this up till now. I was like, well, this company's reputation has gone downhill, or they've had a breach. We can't let you use this tool anymore. So my boss is like, he does like that I'm able to bring that perspective because I've worked with the user. I'm like, can we give them an alternative? Like, it can't just be no. I was like, I get it. It is just no, but I was like, can we provide them some other, hey, why don't you try this? So that's always my answer. I'm like, if we're going to tell them no, let's explain to them why. And it's probably a little bit of the mom coming out of me too, because I do that with my son, and my dad hates it. He's like, why are you explaining yourself? So he understands my reasoning when I'm saying no. Because like, if he doesn't, then he's going to still try to pursue it because he thinks I'm just being mean, or I'm just ruining everything. I was like, that's not what's happening here. I'm trying to protect you. I need you to understand why. Here's an alternative. So yeah, I just, that's the good thing about IT. I tell people, I was like, you don't have to stay where you start. I was like, if you come into the help desk, you don't have to be at the help desk forever unless you choose to be, and that could be through you choosing to stay at the help desk level, or you not doing the extra work to get from that level. Because some people are like, well, I've been here for 10 years. I should just be able to move over. But why? What have you shown them that's going to allow you to make this jump? Are you willing to do the extra work to learn the role or the tools and things that are necessary? No. So why would they hire you? Why would they pull you out of here? So I'm happy that IT, it gives you that, hey, I'm gonna make this left and I'm gonna go this way now. You're not married to whatever you got your degree in, your major in, or the first position you had. You don't have to stay there. You can always pivot.
That's fundamentally just the basic of it, right? And it's something that I try to emphasize so much, is that you can pivot Like, you're not stuck there. You're not married to it. You're getting a little bit of experience that exposes you to something else that you might really enjoy. And then you pivot. But you said something so fundamentally good, which is the user experience and the business aspect and impact of security, right? Because I'm a firm believer that security is not a no situation. Like, I worked for an organization before where security was very much seen as the no people. And it's so difficult to then come in there and change people's perspective of security, because it's not about no, it's about enabling business, like enhancing user experience through having secure and efficient ways of doing it. So what I really like about what you're saying is that your perspective and your mindset was embraced, right? Because you brought an entirely different dynamic. So can you talk a little bit more about that and how you were able to kind of go into this space, not really having like that much of the technical know-how and experience, but it didn't, how can you say, almost like hold you back that you didn't have that, but you embraced the fact that you brought a different mindset and a different perspective?
I was very upfront about that, of course. Like I expressed my desire to learn more. I was like, I know I don't have this long list of credentials that, external candidates or, the job posting has. I was like, but I do know the company. I was like, that means I know the user. I was like, I know the user and I know the company. I was like, I know the things we need. I know the goals we're trying to achieve from a business operations side, but I was like, I'm able to see the user's perspective, things they're trying to achieve. So it's like, if we can, so my boss was like, I'm able to bring that line. I can toe the line. I'm like, I can see how this is problematic for us, but I could also see what they're trying to do. And we're still very much considered the no people. Anytime there's a no, it's usually coming from us. I'm like, But I was like, my boss has this saying, of course, he's always like, he's like, security and convenience are not friends. He's like, he said, it's very rare that we make a call that is convenient for the rest of the company. They don't like it, but they get it to a degree. So he's like, sometimes it's helpful to just be like, okay, pause. And I'm like, well, what about this? Okay. He's like, is it safe? Is it secure? How long has this company been around? Especially there's lots of tools out there for accessibility now. Lots of companies are trying, hone in on making sure that whatever presentations and things that they're doing are, accessible to anybody that may have any type of, disability. And there's so many small companies out there. There's so many. They're like, this is great. I'm like, oh, Lord. I was like, I don't see any information about this company. I don't know how. I was like, they were like, well, it looks legit. I was like, I'm not saying it's not legit. We don't know what their practices are. And a lot of smaller companies don't really have any. They're like, hey, this is a tool we made. It works. I was like, it's very rare that they're concerned about their security and their compliance. I was like, that stuff's costly. So I do understand that. But I was like, they're not concerned about it. I was like, some of these things don't even have a privacy policy. I was like, you're really bringing this to us? And then, of course, we have to say no. And then they're just like, well, how are we supposed to compete with these and, make sure that we're done? I'm like, I was like, and now the hunt for alternatives continues. And it's like the bigger companies that have these same tools, they're costly. So it's like, okay, now we have to find something in the middle that makes security happy, makes the user happy, makes the bottom line happy, that does not cost $1 million for something that the entire company won't use. So I was very happy that my boss embraced my perspective. He still does. And he'll ask me like, hey, how do you think the users are going to react? I was like, well, anytime we come back with a no or a, hey, let's go this route, sometimes they're okay. It softens it up if you give them an alternative. I was like, if we can provide them with something that gives them the same thing or something really, really close, the no isn't as bad. Like, yes, I know you found this tool. It's great. It's harder when there's tools that have been around for a while, but they're still kind of mom and pop shops. And we have to tell them they have to stop using it. Those are, I haven't found a way to soften those. They're like, well, I've been using it for 15 years. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't fit in our compliance model now. So you have to stop. And they're just like, you guys are making it impossible to do my job. I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, yeah, I don't have a way to soften this one up. Gonna lob this over to my boss. Hey, so it's above me. I was like, we just can't support it. So it's helpful because, again, at the end of the day, the users, we work for them, but they're one of our biggest points of failure. I was like, so it's trying to get them in line, keep them happy and productive, but still make sure that we're securing the company. So it's interesting, but my boss is very open to that perspective because he hasn't been on the user side for a while. He said, yeah, he's like, I'm very far removed from the end users at this point. I was like, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. But I mean, you must be having a field day with all of the AI tools that's available now.
Wow. Yeah. There again, like I said, there's greatness that comes with them. Like, oh, this is going to make this easier. Hey, it's going to summarize my meeting for me. That's great. But how much data are you feeding into this tool? What else is it reading while it's transcribing your meeting? Is it accessing? What is it asking for when you install? And they're just like, I just clicked, yes, and checked all the boxes. They're like, yeah, that's great. But we have to know, where is this data stored? That's the other thing. They're like, oh, it's local. Are you sure it's not uploading it somewhere? It's not using it as a tool. I think we saw recently with LinkedIn, like it was like, hey, you have to go in and uncheck that setting that says, hey, we'll use your profile information to learn. Whoa. I didn't say you could use my data to teach your tool. Clearly, we know that's how AI learns, but most people don't read that fine print. They're just like, okay, whatever, it works great. I was like, yeah, and it's using whatever data you're sharing with it to learn. I was like, you guys have to be aware of that. So it's interesting. It's an interesting time. All the users are excited about it. Most people are, but it's moving so fast. It's really hard to get in front of some of this stuff before the users are like they're on a meeting with someone else. Oh, I saw this really great tool. Okay. All right, let's look at it. And then it's like, is this something we want to use at an enterprise level? Are we just going to approve it for this small group of people? But if you approve it there, it's going to make its way through everyone else because someone's going to say, I use this. Security said it was okay. So it's interesting. It's a little bit of a sprint right now to kind of keep up with all this. There's so many tools, even at a creative level for making stuff for IG or making posts or like websites. I was like, there's a million tools doing the same thing. They're all AI based. They're, hey, we can make your presentation for you. Okay. I was like, I get it. I was just like, it's a lot. So yeah, we're definitely we get a lot of stuff thrown our way. And we're just like, And of course, all the bigger companies are trying to incorporate it into their existing tools, which for us, security makes it easier to kind of tick things off. Cause it's like, okay, it's in this suite of tools already. So they have proper protocols in place. So we're good here. But then there's some things, well, this one doesn't do what this one does. I'm like, yeah, that one's came out last week. We don't really know anything about it. What else does it do? So it's been an interesting time. I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing.
It's like with the whole shadow IT, shadow data, that was one thing, that we tried to manage and get a hold of. But then with the whole new AI tooling and enablement of AI, even into the day-to-day tools, it's like, okay, but which models are they using? What are these models ingesting, learning? Where do they, what kind of, is it private? Is it public? Is it teaching the entire model, your company data or string or whatever you're putting in there? So it's all of these compliance considerations that users don't really consider. And actually at my company, I was one day in this training and there was an external trainer and it was a whole group of different people. So I think I was the only one there from security, but business, IT, a lot of different people. And it was just a random business training, but he asked the group in the room, are you guys allowed to use ChatGPT in your organization? And I was like, with my whole chest, I was like, no. And everyone around me was like, yes.
You're like, oh no.
I was like, what? No. And then people pointed and then they're like, oh, she said no. So probably no, it's not. And
well, I've been using it.
Right. And it's so interesting that this is a real big deal because unfortunately people don't understand the implications. They just don't understand that one. I mean, for me, it's in the cloud space, right? So the one storage account string that you are putting in there into this AI tool to help you build infrastructure as code, that is now out there for other AI models to pull from and to share that. And they learn your corporate information or your personal information. And so that is such an issue because I think even from the onset of the boom of ChatGPT to the normal consumer, right? Many people didn't really have a question mark of, okay, I'm putting my name in here. I'm putting my address in here. Like, what does this mean for me? I think as a security person, or maybe a majority of IT people felt like, okay, what am I feeding this thing? But the normal average user, they just copied and pasted the document in there, legal document, healthcare document, doesn't matter. So
are you nuts?
it's a real issue from a data privacy and data protection perspective. But I mean, for you then, like in the workplace, how do you go about analyzing kind of what apps would you allow or not? Do you have internal company policies? Do you use like external frameworks, or how do you go about that decision?
So we have policies in place for things that are explicitly not allowed. And as we come into contact with new things, they're run through us. So that's why we still have that. They're the bad guys. They say no. Because they're like, hey, I want to use this new tool. And they'll send it to us. And I'm like, we have this tool that does this. Oh, okay. We do have a list that explicitly no, these things cannot be in our environment, not on your computer at home. Do not get VPN. Don't visit these sites. And then we have, of course, whitelisted things that are, these are all fine. You may not necessarily use them, but these are things. And then we have to evaluate a lot of things as we go, because some things aren't enterprise level, software. It's just, it's good software. It's not something we use day to day. It might be a small subset. Like if we have one small department that needs this particular feature, then they've brought in a tool or software that we need to evaluate. And then we're like, all right, it's approved. It's for them. And but yeah, here lately, it's been a lot of evaluate, but we have enterprise level stuff that's approved, things that a lot of people are familiar with, but it's a yes, no, then let's take a look at it for us. We got 3 columns.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a lot of researching, kind of knowledge gaining, learning about new capabilities, tools, but also a lot of problem solving for you, right? What are some of the skills that you would say in your job specifically that you think people would need to have to be able to do that type of job?
Reading. And that's not being funny. It's when you're researching a new tool or software, a lot of times you're going to have to comb through that vendor's policies, their, white paper. Like you're trying to dig to find out, okay, what is I can't remember what the software, we were evaluating something. And I was like, oh, they have this certification. But then I was reading through their privacy policy, and somewhere in there was like, oh, if we're subject to a data breach, they were basically like, you're SOL. I was like, wow. Wow. I was like, this is in your privacy policy. I was like, yikes. I was like, and that one thing. And again, if I wasn't reading, because of course people say, oh, they have a privacy policy, they're good because it's long and you don't want to read it. And a lot of it is cookie cutter language. Sometimes you don't really I was like, I said, I was like, that's a flag. He was like, what do you mean they said you're on your own? They said we're on our own. If we put data in here and they have a breach, what is out there is not their problem. They're not going to help. So it's definitely lots of reading. Sometimes knowing what else to look for when, let's say, a company doesn't, not that they're not forthcoming with it, they may have it packaged differently in their info in their knowledge base. Hey, you're like, I'm looking for certifications, but if they don't use that terminology, you're looking for compliance. Then it's like, okay, let me find out what certifications this company should have based off the type of industry they're in. Because of course, financial, healthcare, there are different things you're looking for depending on what the software or the tool is going to be used for. So definitely critical thinking, reading. I don't do a lot of technical writing, thank goodness. I do a little bit though. So that is helpful when I am trying to compile my report or analysis of a software or a program that I'm either saying yay to or no. I like to, fully explain my no, but in a way that it's technical, but also that I'm not overwhelming the person that requested it. They're like, none of this, because again, like you said, what things mean to us, they don't mean the same thing to the end user. They don't care. They're like, okay, you said no, this is why, but I'm using it for this. So strong communication skills, because you have to be able to get your, convey the stance of the company while also respecting the needs of the end user. Because again, we work for them. I was like, contrary, it's like, we work for them. I was like, we hold a lot of the strings, but we work for them. So those are three of my big things, and wanting to learn more. So a lot of times in this field, even coming in, like I have coworkers that are senior level and they are amazing at what they do. They're very analytical. That's another thing. But being willing to learn new tools, because there's always something new. As technology evolves, security has to evolve. So we're learning what this new software is, what this new platform is that'll help us analyze these new threats that are coming in. So being willing to sit in trainings, people are like, that sounds easy. It's not, because you have to digest what they're telling you in these trainings and apply it to your day-to-day. If you guys brought in a new cloud provider or cloud tool that's going to help you, analyze logs, like you have to understand what it's doing, how it's working. Or if you have a seam, it's holding all these logs, but I need to query something specific. Like I'm looking for something that might be an indicator of compromise. I have to know how to, what language am I using to query this information? Because clearly I'm not about to comb through. It's thousands of logs. No one has time for that. You have to be able to compose a query and pull information. My coworker is actually amazing at it. He really is. Like he's very, very, and like he's very good. He will explain it talking 90 miles an hour, but he's very, very good at it. So being willing to learn new skill sets, because you're going to need them. You don't have to have them necessarily all the time, but you have to be willing to pick them up as you go, because your role is going to evolve. As technology evolves, just that, I think that's the beauty of it. Like, I think that's why I like technology so much. Not only can you pivot, but your role will it's not going to stay the same. It's not. Unless you're going to become obsolete. Like if that's your goal, then yeah, but you're going to be learning something new. So being open and being prepared to like, okay, I need to go pick up this book, or I need to sit in this 2-hour training because I need to learn how to run queries better. Then learn them. I'm like, it's not going to hurt you. Do I enjoy sitting in classrooms all the time? Not necessarily, depending on the instructor, because that matters. What type of instructor you have for training definitely matters. But being willing to learn new skill sets or to bolster the ones you already have, huge things that you need.
I completely agree with all of what you're saying, even down to the point of the instructor, right? Because cybersecurity education is more around how you consume and apply the knowledge versus kind of how much knowledge you are learning in the classroom. Yeah. And, like, it's not really about that. It's about like taking the little bit of knowledge you have, applying that, then you learn how to do that, then you gain more knowledge, apply it, gain more knowledge, apply it. So it's like in these increments. And one thing that I find fascinating is the approach of people trying to learn it all before they even start. Right? In my view, that is not necessarily possible, because whichever job you're going to get, you're going to start with a small chunk of things. Then you're going to master that first. Then from there, you're going to grow into something else. And like by you trying to spend years or like 1 or 2, 3 years to learn everything up front, that just means that by the time you're going to try and get into the workforce, like you're already outdated. Right. So, right. I mean, what do you think about that?
Things have already changed by the time you get here. It's like and then honestly, and I don't know, it can't just be me, but I am very much from the school. If I don't use something I've learned, it gets the recycle bin. I'm like, oh, I remember seeing this 2 years ago, but we never used it ever. So I haven't had a chance to apply it. I'm not even sure where it lives in my head at this point. So that's the other thing. You're trying to learn all of these things, but you didn't actually apply any of it. So it's like, or you go into an interview or you step into a role, that stuff either is obsolete or you don't remember how to do it because you didn't actually use it. I was like, I'm very much student. Let me touch stuff. Let me touch a sandbox. Clearly, I don't want to play on production or anything like that, but let me put it into practice some so that I can kind of, it helps reinforce what I learned in whatever training. But it also may give me a different perspective on tools we're already using. I'm like, oh, well, maybe we can use this way. So it helps to be hands-on. Yeah, I'm not trying to learn everything, squeeze all in. Like you said, it's going to be outdated, but I'm not trying to squeeze all that data in only to not use it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, by the time you're there, I firmly think then you've already moved on. So
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely not, I think, that valuable. But one thing I want to do now is I want to come and ask you a lot more about your information sharing, your knowledge sharing, and of course, like a lot more about Flash Tech Summit. But I want to pause here and I want to introduce you to this segment. It's called Rapid Fire. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
rapid fire is like where I'm going to ask you a bunch of random questions and then you, and then you kind of answer the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right.
Gotcha.
Perfect. All right. So let's go with question number 1. If not IT and security, which other career would you be doing?
I used to want to be a meteorologist.
Oh,
I wanted to be a weather. I have no idea why. I'm still fascinated by the weather, but it was one of those things. I was like, oh, I'm going to do that, and then I'm not sure where it went.
nice. I like that. That is definitely like a left field kind of one. I love it. What is your favorite tech gadget to use?
Do I have one? Is the question. Do I actually have one? I mean, I guess technically my phone. And it's probably because I don't know if it's my favorite. I think it's the one that's always in hand, literally. It's always right there. So it kind of wins by default a little bit. I don't know if it's actually my favorite, but it can kind of do a lot. So I was like, I think we'll roll with that one.
Nice. And is it Apple or Android? Let's be
Apple.
Yeah, of course, because you share the best Apple advice and tips. So
I will say though, I am not anti-Android. I told my friends, I was like, I am not anti-Android. I was like, I'm into the ecosystem at this point. I was like, there's really no way out for me. I was like, I've used an Android before. I got invited to an event. It's a really great phone. I was just like, wow. I was like, I'm in the ecosystem. I can't turn back. I was like, I can't leave. I can't fit the Android in there. If I could, I probably would. So, but no, Apple over here.
All right, let's go with what is one of your favorite books? It can be career or personal that you've loved reading the most.
I've loved reading the most.
Or that's had a big impact. Like even if it's had a big impact, yeah.
Gotcha. I don't remember the title of the book. I was introduced to a anthology on Greek myths in like 4th grade. And when I say that literally like opened this door in my brain, and I've been like fascinated with that stuff ever since. Like even now, like I think last week, my husband was like, what are you watching? I was like, I'm watching this series, they're discussing, the Greek myths, the Greek. He was like, oh my God. He's like, seriously? I was like, yeah. He's like, but you know all the stories. It's I know, but I like hearing like philosophers and other people kind of expound on what it meant to people, what they were trying to make sense of. I was like, I love all of that stuff. I don't remember the name of the book. I remember it was a thick book with a bunch of the different stories in it. And my teacher read it to the class. And then like I would spend my days in the afternoon like reading it after class. And that's just where I've been. Like, I mean, I'm very much into a little bit of self-help because I think, but I also read a lot of like fiction. And I told my husband that's to help balance out that there's not a lot of room for creativity and other things in my actual day-to-day work. So I was like, I need that brain break to just wander off into the what ifs, or that's not really happening, but it sounds great, right? I was like, I read a lot of fiction to give myself that balance. I was like, of course I read, devotionals and things like that, but I was like, that's my brain break. And I enjoy reading those too.
Wow, what a nice perspective on like fiction as a brain break, because I struggle to get into fiction. Like I'm very much like a biography, reality kind of scientific like book or content consumer. And I just I'm like, no, fiction is not real. Why should I do that? But I mean, what a great perspective you have on kind of the brain break when it comes to fiction. I love that. That's definitely a new perspective. All right. So after a busy day or week at work, what is your go-to relaxation methods?
I am curling up in the corner of my couch and I'm either playing those weird little like cooking games, like time management things. I'll play those. Or I'll just find a new series or something on Netflix and I'm in the corner of the couch with a blanket and I'm just kind of like, I'm there. He's like, are you going to do anything else? No, I don't think I will. I'm going to sit right, especially if it's been a long week. I'm like, I don't have the energy to do anything else. That's all I got. So nice. Yeah. And it's always the corner of the couch, not one end or the other. It's the corner because we have a sectional. So I'm in the corner. He's like, why? Because it's comfortable here. So yeah, that's my go-to.
I love how methodical you are about these things, because even like with the meteorology and then with the like kind of the books and like it's so it makes sense, like even your workplace, it's very methodical and like sciency, but then you have a reason for the fiction, like I'm very intrigued here. So if you could change anything about kind of your career progress right now, what would that be?
I think I would accelerate it a little bit more. Not to say that I want to skip out on learning some of the lessons and tools that I've picked up along the way, but I feel like I could have greater impact if I was higher up in my career. So C-suite, that's where a lot of the change happens. I was like, so I think if I could change anything at this moment, I was like, I wish I was a little higher. I was like, even though I feel like I'm also at the same time, I'm like, do I really want to manage people at this point in my career? But I was like, you can make change there. So I think that's one thing I would change if I could.
Okay. And do you work remotely or in office?
Remotely,
All
which
right.
I love. I don't mind going in the office every once in a while to switch it up, but remote.
Okay. And the big question here, drum roll. Do you code?
No. The funny thing is when I started pursuing my degree, I thought I wanted to. I got to my first programming class. I said, oh no, I was like, I cannot do this. Please present me with, I was like, it gave me a headache. So I have a huge respect for the people on our team, our developers, our software, amazing people. I was like, wow, your brain really works differently because I cannot do this all day. So even though I introduce kids to code through a few different tools, I was like, that's probably the extent of my code experience right there with kids. I was like, if they hit a real snag, I'm like, I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to phone a friend because I can't help you. I can start you off, but I cannot help you.
Can we just have a moment for it gives you a headache? I love that.
I was like, someone's going to do this every day for 8 hours a day for a living. I said, it cannot be me. I was like, I really tried, and I was just like, I'm going to fail. I'm going to be unemployed. I was like, I could not see past the class. I was like, no. I was like, I have to get out of here. So I can't fail it, but I was like, I cannot pursue this anymore. It was so bad.
Interesting. Well, you did great with rapid fire. I will tell you that.
Those are good questions. And they covered like a range, like they were random questions, but then they were like, hey, we're going to sprinkle some tech stuff. And you're like, they were good questions.
Nice. I'm glad. Let's talk before we get into some of the initiatives that you are driving even personally outside of your 9 to 5. Let's talk just a little bit for a moment about education and educational background, right? So you said that you did your degree program. So can you tell us what degree, and then if you did any kind of further education in either IT or security thereafter?
I have my bachelor's degree in network information systems, which I kind of leaned into hardware initially when I came out, but that is my degree. After that, I literally could not wrap my head around going back to school. I thought about it. Then I also thought about how much it costs. And for a good chunk of half my career, I was a single mom. So I was like, I don't have the time to go back to school, to really give it the effort it deserved, especially with the price tag associated with it. I was like, yeah, I was like, and is this going to affect my career immediately? Was also my next thought process. I'm like, is this going to get me like, moving up in my career now? Is this worth me investing the time and the money? So I was like, and of course, because I was a mom at the time, I did a lot of my stuff online. So I was like, balance it. I told my son because he's in college now. So I was sharing with him, and he was just like, the work is harder. I said, well, I didn't tell you it was going to be easy. It's like, he's on campus, he's having the experience, which I love for him. But I was like, college is not easy. I said, I was doing my capstone project for my bachelor's while you were sitting in the room with me, and I was literally in tears. He said, why were you crying? I was like, because it was a group project. I was like, I don't like group projects. I was like, even though IT is seemingly one giant group project, this project, we had like a team lead, and he was doing great. And it's like the last 2 weeks, I found out that somebody in the team was not pulling their weight, because he was like, hey, I think he had a medical emergency. He was like, he's like, here's my portion of the project. just get everyone else's, and put it together. Ah, easy. He was like, oh, but she hasn't been doing anything the entire semester. I said, excuse me? I was like, so how were we getting our project done? He's like, I was doing it. Why didn't you say anything? Yeah, I was like, why would you not tell the rest of us that? I was like, because I'm thinking my part's done, your part's done. Everyone else is sitting there and I'm waiting for hers, not knowing that you were doing the work of two people. I was like, are you crazy? So I was like, deadline was in a few hours. I was like, well, we have to make something shake. I was like, we may not get an A this go around, but yeah, I was just like, it was a lot. And I think after that, I was just like, I'm good on going to school now. I was like, my kid's in school. Let me make sure he's good. Before I got into security, I've done lots of subsequent training through my company. They're pretty big on, professional development, especially once you switch departments within IT. They're like, okay, we want to make sure you're as prepared as possible for the role you're stepping into. So if it's something that's platform specific, you'll get, basic introductory training followed up by, hands-on things, workshops. So they're very good about making sure that we have access to tools we need, to learn and be our best selves at work. So, but I think, after that, I was like, I have not. And every once in a while, I get the itch. I'm like, I wonder, should I go back for, nah. It's a fleeting thing. I was like, And now I definitely want to take some courses, on AI, machine learning, and I told my boss it's not to necessarily develop anything, but I was like, I want to have a good understanding of what we're navigating now. I was like, I said, how can we secure something we don't fully understand? So that's big for me. So I was like, even if it's me taking, hey, I'm going to sit in this, 1 hour workshop or talk just to learn a little bit more. I was like, or if you see me asking to sit in this other, take a week off for this workshop, it's not because I'm trying to leave. I was like, I want to understand this stuff. I was like, because it's coming in very fast and the users don't understand it. But because it's going to be an out-of-house tool for us, for a lot of companies I know, I need to know more. I was like, we need to know more. I was like, it's just coming very fast. So I haven't gone back for any formal degree seeking since. But you never know.
Yeah.
Never know.
But I mean, I think, and thank you for sharing that experience with the education and with having your son and being a single mom, because I think, so many people always ask the question, right? Like, I'm a single mom and I'm trying to go about this journey and, how can I make it in this industry or how can I make it happen? And I think what you've shared just now will be so inspiring to people, to hear that, like, you're doing it and you've done it and, you're in security now and you're doing well in security. And it's just such a good, heartwarming story and journey that I think you have. I really like that.
Thank you. It's not easy. And I think that's what a lot of people are expecting. We're in the age of they're expecting instant things and it's supposed to be fast. I was like, it's not going to be easy. It may not be fast. I was like, but you will get there. I was like, you will. I was like, if you want to, I was like, you just have to push through. I was like, and it's not to say, oh my gosh, just power through life because life is lifing. But if you keep doing the work, the results will come. It may not be as quick as you want. It's not going to be quick, but it can happen. It can be done.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So now I want to ask, you are obviously very passionate about cybersecurity education or tech education as a whole. So you founded the Flash Tech Summit, which helps to teach kids about IT. So what is that about? Can you tell us a little bit about what's that about and what inspired you to create that?
Funny enough, I used to teach programming at our local rec center. Because I wanted to find a way to show other kids what tech was, because the way I found it, of course, I knew what technology was. I knew what it was. I knew about computers, all that fun stuff, the internet. But once I began my career in it, I realized how little was shared about careers in technology when I was in school. And I was just like, okay, so had I not taken this random elective in college, I would not have known that this was a career possibility for me. And it's not, even when we did career days, they were never people, engineers or anything like that. We got, the basic community stuff. We got, the firefighters, the police officers, teachers, nurses, all necessary and amazing fields, like amazing work. But I was like, it wasn't for me. I was like, I'm squeamish about blood and things. Like I can't do certain types of work. And I didn't know there were options. So I was like, I want to share what I know now with our kids, I want them to know that there's other careers out here that they can do. And I also wanted to get rid of the stigma that everything in IT, like you said, do you code? No, I don't. Everyone in IT does not have to know how to code. You don't have to know how to build a computer, because there was that weird stigma too. They're like, oh, I have a colleague that can build a computer from nothing. I swear he's amazing. He's also a very old school IT person. But I was like, that's not everyone's wheelhouse. There's people that program. There are cloud engineers. There's all of these amazing roles. And I feel like kids aren't thinking about them because they don't know the roles exist. So I was like, okay, how can we get this information in front of them and not, I was very big on not charging them. They were like, well, we have to have this stuff. I was like, it's a county funded rec center. I was like, you guys have the money. I was like, it's a workshop. It's a bunch of workshops for a day. I was like, it's just little small workshops. Hence, that's why the term flash. I was like, they're quick little workshops exposing them to things about technology, different career fields, cyber safety. I always have some type of cyber safety workshop every year because technology is changing. The attacks and the lures, especially at our young folk, it's getting worse. So I was like, I want them to be aware. And sometimes their parents need to be aware too, because my dad he's still one of those people that clicks on things that pops up and it scares me. I love him. Like, please don't click on that. But it was just very important to me that access not be a barrier. So even if that's a $20 ticket, they're like, that's not a lot of money. But I was like, if a mom has 3 kids, they're in sports, they're in all these things, there's always a fee for something from somewhere. I was like, that's literally a barrier for them to not be able to come. I was like, I don't want that. I was like, I want them to have access to the information. Now, what they do with that afterwards, hey. But I was like, they've been giving the opportunity, the information. So I'm very big on it being free, always free. It's a full day of small workshops. It's like I try to take what we go to and try to scale it down for kids. So it's about 4 workshops. There's a IT panel during lunch. So like a lunch and learn. They're like, really? I was like, yeah, they're going to eat. They were like, why? I was like, because little kids' attention spans are this big. So you have to give them something else to do while adults are talking to them because they don't want to sit there in the first place. They're like, really? They don't. They really don't. They're like a ball of energy after lunch too. But we provide lunch for free. We give them bags with all types of like little gadgets and goodies in them. I was able to do it during the pandemic. So we did it virtually, which was interesting because, again, I'm sure the kids were virtualed out at that point, but they were online and they were engaged. We exposed them to low-level coding through Code Combat platform, which is like, it's gamified coding. So they don't feel like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But I just wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity and access. And probably the biggest joy I get out of it, of course, the kids are having a great time. They're excited. The parents are very happy at the end, is seeing people that I don't remember. And not to say I don't remember the kids, but they were like, hey, my son just applied for college and he's going into cybersecurity. He didn't know that was a role that he could, reach. And I was like, wow. I was like, that's the goal. I was like, I want kids to know I can do this. And I want them to be able to see themselves in these roles and know what opportunities are out there. So I was like, if I just reach one every year, I was like, that's a win. I was like, but every year kids leave excited about technology in a different way. Like clearly they're all excited about Roblox and all of the things, but they leave with a different energy for technology from there. And I just want to make sure that our kids have access to the information, opportunities as much as I can. So as long as I can keep it going, that is the goal.
That is very, very inspiring. And I'm so in awe because I'm a firm believer that there's not enough information and resources available to kids to know that the option exists, right? That's the reality. Exactly. They don't know, like you described, they don't know that the option of a career in IT and cybersecurity is as lucrative as being a lawyer or being a doctor, it's a different path and it's as lucrative and as great of a career.
And as necessary, because again, people are like, you need lawyers, you need cybersecurity professionals. Like, you really need them now. But I was like, you need these people in these roles. I was like, so being a lawyer, if you're not a great debater, you're not going to be a good lawyer. I was like, but maybe you're really, really good on the computer and your parents don't know where to direct that energy. They're like, I'm not good with computers. I don't really know how to, nurture that in you. I don't know what tools to give you to kind of help foster that. So I was like, I try to send the parents out with resources too. Like, hey, maybe you sign them up for this online website, let them do this in their downtime. So that way you're giving them access to a tool to kind of help feed something they're interested in.
Yeah.
So I was
amazing. Amazing. I'm inspired. Well done on that. That's really, really I love that. And I love the approach. And I feel like it's such a thing that like security professionals have, or we have within us, is like the access to information should be accurate and it should be available and it should be free, right? I always have this discussion, like access to information for every person that is interested in this option should be readily available and it should be free. And the fact that you're working so hard, like to make a difference from like from the younger generation age is like, I love that. It's so inspiring. So now I want to ask you about Chic Diva Geek, right? So how did that come about, and what is the goal and what is the aim and what are you doing with that platform?
Funny enough, it started out as a blog because, like 10, 12 years ago, everyone had a blog. And I was like, I want to write a blog. And it was just about me enjoying technology at the time. Like I was writing about games when I still had time to play them, like, oh, there's a new game out, and just kind of sharing whatever new gadgets and technologies are coming, because I'm still very excited about it. I don't have as much time anymore to do the blog, but that was where it started. And then of course, working in IT, hey, can you fix my printer? And I would still get questions like that from friends and family. And I was like, no, but I mean, I can. So I was like, okay, why don't I make this a part of that? Like, hey, I'll take small repair requests. Hey, I'll help with websites. And I was like, okay, well, this is an extension. So it's it's essentially a blog that turned into an actual business. And the blog kind of died off a little bit. I was like, I need to bring it back. But that's where Chic Diva Geek started, because I am the neighborhood geek amongst my friends. Like, they're like, hey, do you have a recommendation for, remember 3 days ago, she's like, I need a docking station for my, she's like, I'm going to work at home, but I need to support multiple monitors. I was like, okay, what kind of computers do you get? So I still get those kinds of questions. So I was like, okay, how do we flip this into a business a little bit? And that's kind of where it started. And now it leans more on website stuff. And that's fine, because again, it gives me semi-creative outlet from my day-to-day, because there's no creativity in cyber. There was none in the data center either, though. So there's that. So yeah, I said, okay, well, if I'm not going to share the blog as much, I can just get on as IG grew. I was like, I can just share little small tips here, because people will ask, how do you do X, Y, and Z on your phone? Or, hey, is there a site where I can check? Like my son, even he's very good about, hey, mom, I'm not sure if this site is legit, but people say they order clothes from there all the time. Can you check it for me? I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was like, I'm glad you're aware that everything, just because it looks shiny and cool, like it may not be. So yeah, I just like, let me share my tips here. It gets to people quicker. People like things in bite-sized chunks anyway, not 4 or 5 paragraphs, which I get. I'm like that too sometimes. I was like, so this is my way of still sharing my excitement about technology and the things I'm learning, or day-to-day things. So yeah, and that's where it's kind of, I still think there's more to evolve too, but I feel good about where it is. Me being able to just share things you may not know about your device, or your home network, or things like that. And I just kind of was like, okay. And of course, if people have questions about, other resources, I'm happy to share those too. I don't know if it's just me. Sometimes I find a struggle trying to find, I was like, is this shareable content, if that makes sense? I'm like, is this going to benefit somebody? They're like, well, it's not about the likes. I was like, it's not even that. I was like, is it going to help someone? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'm just rambling. I was like, and I don't want to do that either. I was like, there's enough noise on the internet. I don't want to contribute to the noise unless it helps someone. But I also have to be mindful of things we know that are like basic knowledge may not be basic to someone else. I was like, I have to remind myself of that sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the balancing act of like being a security professional and then trying to share knowledge. I remember for me, it took me like maybe a year to change the language that I use on like Instagram as an example, because I'm so kind of technical and involved in day-to-day security stuff, that even though I thought I was explaining the basics, like my husband, he always used to tell me, yeah, no, you're talking to that person there. Like you're not talking to the basic human. Yeah, exactly. So that's why for me, it's even become like a balancing act of when I share like security tips, like awareness information, versus when I share technical content. Because when I share technical content, I feel like I can be more of like me in terms of like where I am. But like awareness content, which is mainly what you like to do. Like you like to share technical tips and basics and those things. I find the balancing act as a security professional is so tough, but you do it really well. I will say that again. Like I'm always watching and you're always on top of it. Like especially with the Apple updates. Those are my favorite videos, because like I go like to your page and I just know that you have the update about iOS 18, like whichever, or a major security update. So those are also for anyone watching or listening. Please go and check out her Instagram because she's always got the best tips and you explain it really well. So I think even if it's one person watching your video, which in this case, it might be me, you are helping. You are helping, and like what you share definitely is valuable. So if that helps, don't doubt that. I think the world is in a space where you just find the person that you understand most and that resonates with you most, and then kind of that's how you learn or that's how you consume information. But it's definitely valuable.
Really good point. And I think the information you provide as a technical resource for people looking to get inside, like, it's so good. I'm like, now if somebody would have mapped this out this way for me when I was just like, this would have made I could have taken a few shortcuts, not actually cheating the process, but I would have had a clear direction. Like you give roadmaps. I was like, and I don't think that's talked about enough because again, people's like, I want to work in IT. That's a lot of roads. That's a lot of different twists and turns. And like, sometimes it's like, she's giving you a clear, she like, make this left, turn right here, take this. I was like, a lot of times, some people, they just need that. They're like, okay, I know I want to be in this field. Sometimes people like, I need to know the steps. Like I'll do the work. A lot of times people do the work. Clearly some people want to cheat the process, but they'll do the work. They're like, what work do I need to do though? So I'm not spinning my wheels and wasting time here. And you're really good about giving people clear, like, here's a resource. This is what you get from this resource. Instead of just saying, here's a resource. And then you just like, all right, bye. They're like, okay, what am I supposed to do with it? Because some people will share, here's 5 resources. I'm like, but they don't know what to do with them. You're just going to let them, you tell people like, this is for this. This is for if you're taking this road, if you want to look into this, is a good starting point. Everyone needs to start, but you're very good about explaining that and giving people kind of a little more direction. So
thank you. Honestly, it's been so tough for me because I'm, like in the whole content wheel, it's always like the shorter, the quicker the video, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I'm like, no, if I don't feel good about the fact that I'm providing like a thorough explanation and value in the video, I can't put the content out, right? I absolutely cannot. So this is really validating to me, at least, that it's so helpful that I'm providing like the why and the how to do it and who is it for and why you should think about it, because that's like my entire aim is to make it like holistic.
Exactly. No, you do a wonderful job at that. And I'm sure the people that have already benefited from it, they're like, thank you. Like, I got direction. I'll be back. So I can't wait to hear all the success stories that come out of people that have started, following it. Because again, it's not easy. It's not easy. There's so much information, like you said, that's free, that it's overwhelming. You're like, okay, which tool do I tap first? Do I just take all these courses and then hope that something sticks or that it turns into a career? So no, you're doing good work out here.
Thank you. So now I want to ask, where must people find you, follow you, connect with you? How do they reach out?
So, of course, I'm on Instagram at Chic Diva Geek, ChicDivaGeek. It's actually Chic Diva Geek everywhere. My website is chicdivageek.com. FlashTechSummit.com has its own website. And yeah, Instagram. I mean, Threads is kind of the same thing. I was like, I'm not really on that other site anymore. The profile exists. I don't use it. And LinkedIn, you can find me at Adrian McClanahan. The URL is weird. I need to figure out how to get it cleaner. But if you search Adrian McClanahan in Information Security Systems Analyst, you will find me. Yeah, I think those are my, I'm on Instagram often though. I was like, so if you're looking for me, I am there sharing tips. And I tell people my DMs are open for questions. I've never turned a question away. If it's something I can answer, if I can't answer, I'm going to redirect you to the right resource because I don't want to steer you wrong.
Amazing. Adrien, thank you so much. I feel like we can go on and on and on here today. which is like it's such a great conversation and such a great discussion. But really, thank you. I'm so super inspired, and I think anyone watching and listening will be truly super inspired by you. So thank you so much for joining and for accepting.
For having me.
Yeah, of course. And we'll chat again soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
This is Cybersecurity Uncomplicated, and I'm your host, Cyber Queen.